Did you know an estimated 25 to 40% of the United States population are introverts? Today we'll be talking about what introversion really is and how you can figure out what type of introvert you are. So keep watching closely. We've got everything you need to know coming right up. What is an introvert? Introversion has been subject to a lot of scrutiny in recent years. In an era where we're encouraged to be as social as possible, it can be difficult to accept that some people may prefer solitude. However, this is where introversion comes in. According to the original definition of the term, being an introvert means tending to be concerned with one's own thoughts and feelings rather than with external things. Introversion usually means being self-reliant, private, and reserved. This combination can make many introverts feel uncomfortable when they're in a social environment where they don't know anyone or everyone seems interested in talking to them all the time. Additionally, introversion is not a disorder or a mental illness like depression or anxiety. Introversion, however, is seen as more of a preference to be stimulated by your own thoughts and feelings rather than by others. Introverts are somewhat social creatures who just prefer to be alone for the majority of the time. If you feel happiest in your room with your headphones on, then you might be an introvert. Introversion is not a disorder that needs treatment or a flaw in your character. How do you know if you're an introvert? First, introversion is something that can be tested. With that being said, introversion and extroversion are largely a result of genetics, upbringing, and personality. Knowing if you're an introvert, however, is a little easier. It's a combination of how you feel about yourself and others and how you act. Introverts are more likely to be comfortable and happy by themselves or in smaller groups of close friends. They prefer quiet, solitary activities like reading and journaling. There are a few ways to know if you're more of an introvert. If you think you should be more social but constantly feel drained after social events, then chances are you're more of an introvert. What are the 4 types of introverts? The social introvert. A social introvert is an introvert who prefers to spend time alone and is typically extremely picky about the people they want to be around. On top of this, they will go out of their way to ensure that they have the amount of time alone that they need. But when they do socialize, it will be with a small group of close friends. Social introverts prefer living this way because they enjoy their own company and become emotionally drained if they spend too much time with others. It is not the same as shyness or anxiety. Social introversion is more of a preference. So you're probably wondering, how do you know if you're a social introvert? Well, if you prefer small group outings where talking might be unnecessary, dislike small talk, and prefer to socialize with people you already know, you might just be a social introvert. The anxious introvert. An anxious introvert's social discomfort may cause them to seek solitariness, but their anxiety might not fade away when they are all by themselves. An anxious introvert is someone who frequently thinks and worries about things that could have failed or already have gone poorly in social settings. These people are described as anxious introverts. These introverts will most likely avoid people and situations that cause them anxiety. They may come off as rude, but it's all just their defense mechanism at work. They don't necessarily dislike company, but they're just aware of their comfort zones and don't want them crossed. So how do you know if you're an anxious introvert? Well, if you find yourself doing just about anything to get out of a social setting, and even if you do somehow end up there, you find yourself in smaller groups within the social setting, there's a good chance you could be an anxious introvert. The restrained introvert. The restrained type is likely the rarest of the 4 to be seen, yet it's not without occurrence. These individuals hold back before warming up to new people, thus restraining themselves until you've gained their trust. They're not afraid of social interactions. Instead, they prefer to maintain a select circle of friends. They enjoy meeting new people, but are typically very selective about who they really open up to. This can sometimes make a restrained introvert appear mysterious. It's because they take a back seat and observe before they act. They pause to consider what they should say before speaking. And once they decide to trust you and they open up, it's likely that's the real them, and that's there to stay. How can you tell if you're a restrained introvert? Well, do you enjoy predictable activities? Would you say you're more on the reserved side while getting to know someone? If so, you might be a restrained introvert. The thinking introvert. A thinking introvert, in this sense, is a person who spends a lot of time in their head. Intellectual introversion is the term some use to describe a thinking introvert, as a person who thinks about almost everything they see and hear. Of course, they spend a lot of time in their mind, so it's not surprising that they have a complex inner world. This is not necessarily a negative characteristic, however. On the contrary, a thinking introvert is often very self-reflective and can analyze social dynamics with precision. The introspective type is not absorbed into their own world of fantasy, though. They're usually deep in thought. So how can you tell if you're a thinking introvert? If you hate being rushed to make decisions, frequently come off as argumentative, and struggle to explain your own decisions, it could mean you're a thinking introvert. Is there a connection between introversion and shyness? There is no connection between the personality trait of being introverted and the emotion of being shy, even though many people believe there is. In social settings, shy individuals are likely to experience physical discomforts such as sweating, rapid heartbeats, and stomach aches. They may also feel awkward and uncomfortable, which can cause them to avoid social events. But introverts prefer to avoid large-scale social activities, but often opt for a small group activity because they find them to be much more comfortable, rather than because they don't want to be around other people. Introverts are often misunderstood. They're just different than others and shouldn't be judged harshly for it. Introverts are more likely to be creative, have good observational skills, and be more thoughtful than the average person. They can even make great leaders because they're more likely to be in touch with their feelings. A few examples of great introverted leaders are Mahatma Gandhi, Abraham Lincoln, and Bill Gates. Introverts certainly have their strengths. Introverts can even have a few advantages over extroverts, such as being more patient, both with themselves and with others. Introverts shouldn't be shy about who they are. They should be proud that they prefer quiet, solitary activities, instead of constantly being in the middle of a crowd. Introverts are just people who need to get the praise they deserve. So there you have it. Everything you need to know about what introversion is, as well as how to figure out which of the 4 types you could be. Do you think you could be an introvert? Comment your thoughts down below. Also, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. We don't want you to miss out on any content similar to this.